somebody in the company got really mad. And so I was getting like death threats and stuff, was getting like people were saying they were going to fight me if they saw me on the street, which is really funny.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
All right, folks, we have Alex Edwards on the Zoom. Let's go ahead and bring him in. He is a worker at a Barnes & Noble and was fired and was able to get his job back thanks to the Teamsters. Also host of the podcast Minion Death Cult, which is pretty good. So Alex, welcome to the program. Uh-oh. We still have Alex?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Zach.
I can. I can hear you now. Hear
Okay.
you now. Alex, one of the hosts of Minion Death Cult podcast, which is a podcast about your Mima's genocidal Facebook feed. So, Alex,
Correct.
welcome to the
It's
program.
all accurate. Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I want to talk about your podcast in a little bit, but I don't want to bury the lead. I want to talk about this union story first because you posted on Twitter that you got your job back, after you were fired, and so and you work at Barnes & Noble, and so is the Barnes & Noble you work at unionized with the Teamsters?
Well, what happened was a lot of people saw an initial post and tried to get Barnes & Noble to fire me. The thing is, I think they maybe had the same misunderstanding that you do. Barnes & Noble wasn't my employer. I just had Barnes & Noble in my display name as kind of am I allowed to say a curse word on here?
Yes.
It was sort of a shitpost display name that had the phrase Barnes & Noble in it.
Okay.
So I just, I got my job back at a different company, but I wanted everybody to know that also I had officially not been fired by Barnes & Noble. So two victories, technically.
Okay, so we're officially not fired from Barnes & Noble, and we got our job back at another company. Are you able to say the company?
I'll say the company. Yeah, I'm an 18-year employee of UPS, 18-year Teamster. I'm a delivery driver.
Okay, yeah, and that's another thing that I was confused about, because I remember watching some of your stuff around the UPS contract negotiations, and I knew that at least one of you was a UPS Teamster, and I had thought it was you, and so I was like, that's kind of weird that he would have been working for UPS and now he's working for Barnes & Noble, but I
was still on friendly terms with the Teamsters, so they sent the local president and business agent out on my behalf, just as a nice jet. No, I'm kidding. Just to clarify, so people, maybe this helps give some insight. My display name was Barnes & Noble copy of the Beatles 1 on vinyl, which is just a personally funny joke to me, because I was just 10 years ago when I made that display name, I was just trying to think of the most mass-produced piece of vinyl I could. This was before Adele and Taylor Swift, started pressing stuff on vinyl. Anyway, that is just a joke, only funny to me. But I've had it for years, and everybody, when I posted a selfie with a keffiyeh on, and everybody tried to get me fired from both Barnes & Noble and UPS.
And so were you actually fired or suspended at UPS?
Yeah, I was terminated without progressive discipline, which is the way we're supposed to do things, according to the contract. And they fired me. It was all stuff around the keffiyeh. They fired me for stealing time by the Post, which was posted on my unpaid lunch.
Right.
So not their time, my time. And then they fired me for the complaint that came in from not a customer, but a bystander who saw me wearing the keffiyeh en route and wrote in or called in to the company. Again, this is so I want to clarify all this. I don't want anybody to contact UPS. The matter is settled. I got my job back with back pay. I was made whole by it. I accept graciously the ruling. Thank you to the arbitrator. Thank you to the union. Thank you to the customers who supported me. So I don't want any sort of retaliation, and I don't want to defame UPS. I actually like working for UPS. Yes, most of the reason I like working for UPS is because of the Teamsters Union. But it's a job I want to have until I retire. So I just kind of want to tread carefully and not say anything that could get me into trouble per se. But I did want to share, my recollection of events because I think it's weird and interesting and maybe helpful for some people out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just want to reiterate, no interest in, and no reason to, nothing to be gained from contacting UPS or the Teamsters about this. We are here in a purely celebratory matter. We are here, like you said, accepting graciously the ruling of the arbitrator and, and celebrating everything. And so the allegation of the time theft and then the complaint of just the wearing of the keffiyeh. And the keffiyeh, for those who don't know, is the scarf that is kind of like a Palestinian show of support, right? It's kind of a Palestinian.
Well, it's a Middle Eastern cultural item, that was given to me as a gift. And they tried to imply that I was being divisive. I believe that's the word the company used, by just wearing this scarf that I've had for, over a year,
Right.
that I had worn en route over a year, that I'd worn into the building, in front of management. But a customer, used a nasty word to describe what the scarf was. I don't really want to repeat it. But from my perspective, it seemed like a very biased individual who I didn't interact with, who admitted in the complaint that they didn't interact with me. I didn't know they were there. I deliver to a very busy city. There's people all around me all the time. So, I wouldn't have noticed them. And they even said in their statement, their complaint, that they never felt afraid of me, but it was implied that if I were to be delivering to a residential area, they would be afraid of me. And I found that disappointing and depressing because I like to think I carry myself very professionally and friendly, and I have an amazing relationship with the customers on my route. Again, I need to thank the 165 people on my route, actual customers, signed a letter of support attesting to my integrity, like good conduct and professionalism, and as a representation of the company. And I believe that helped my case a lot. And I should say there was a third thing they fired me for, which was disobeying an order or instruction, refusing to work as instructed, essentially. And that instruction was never given. I believe we proved that in the case. And so they tried to say that these three things amounted to what's in the Teamsters contract called a cardinal sin that can result in immediate firing without going through the progressive discipline. And these cardinal sins are explicitly outlined in the contract. They are specific offenses. There's 7 of them. But the company's argument was that these 3 other disparate offenses rose to the level, that's the language they used, of a cardinal sin. This is getting really arcane. I hope people aren't super bored by this. But to use that language, they had to compare what I did to some pretty gnarly stuff that other drivers got fired for on the spot. If you can just let your mind run wild, think of bad things you're not supposed to do, both just in society and also as a, while on the clock. Sure. And it was just kind of flabbergasting that I was being compared to this sort of stuff. And again, I think that's one of the reasons their case wasn't successful, is because I think they had to, in my opinion, reach pretty far.
Right. And so 2 months, that's still like a reasonably long time. It's not everybody has the ability to kind of survive for 2 months without a paycheck. Although you got back wages, but that's still, during that 2 months you weren't. But you weren't getting paid. But that's relatively quick in the terms of the U.S. kind of labor system. And so could you walk us through some of the timeline there? You were this happened and the complaints were filed and you were fired. And then what were some of the next steps and how did all of this progress to? I think it was like yesterday or the day before that you announced that you were rehired.
Yeah. So, and I don't believe I've thanked the Teamsters yet. You know, I am a Teamster, but thank you to Teamster, my local. Thank you to local 174 in Seattle. Thank you to local 63 in Southern California. Without them, I would have been toast. That's, you
Mm.
know, that's, I think, a huge, you know, the customer support, the family support, all of that stuff is also necessary for you to get through. But if you don't have the organized labor, the organized power, nothing like this would have happened. And you know, it's sad to say, it's sad to be celebrating something that other people don't have access to right now. But yes, thank you to the Teamsters. And so the reason it is a quick turnaround, actually, 2 months. Luckily, I have the podcast. We make a little bit of money on Patreon. I was able to pay the mortgage, but it was tight. And yeah, just looking forward, it was like, well, I'm gonna have to make drastic life changes if I have to start shopping for a job that's, you know, doesn't it's not as good as a package car driver for UPS. So there used to be a far longer arbitration time because they would do the case. It was like they had to schedule. There was some scheduling conflict. So the way they used to rule on cases, because when you go to panel, it's like I don't know if you guys have probably talked about panels on here before, but it's like a Supreme Court or a jury you have to
Mm.
convince. And the quote tie-breaking vote would be the arbitrator. So there's three from the union, three from the company, one arbitrator. So a lot of times you're like me going into this, I was just like, I don't know how bad it seems like the company really wants me gone. I just better hope the arbitrator is going to be cool. It's going to be normal.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that's how that works. But the labor of the arbitrator is pretty intensive because they have to know the contract, they have to be a lawyer, they have to sit in on what my panel was
Mm.
4 hours. And they're doing that for multiple people. I think they just finished the panel like yesterday or something like that. You
Mm.
know, it goes on for a week or 2 weeks. It used to be like a year. Like they just got somebody in the union was telling me they just got a decision on a panel that happened in July last year. So they have reformed the panel system. I don't, you know, it worked out for me. I don't know really necessarily the full shape of the theory of it, but supposedly it's so you can process cases more quickly. You have a sitting arbitrator.
Mm.
And so 2 months is, yeah, a relatively short period of time for that. Um, so I received, I don't want to get into too many details because we'll be here forever. But yeah, I received uh communication that there had been a complaint made about me. And I was confused because again, I've been wearing my keffiyeh. I was wearing my keffiyeh en route, and I got compliments on it all the time from like people who knew what a keffiyeh was and people who didn't. You know,
Mm.
and so it's not the first thing that jumped to my mind. And when I found out it was that, I was kind of told, well, you can't wear political items as part of the uniform.
Mm.
And I was like, well, who said anything about politics? I'm not going out talking politics on the route to customers. Like this guy, the person who complained never talked to me at all. They don't know my
Mm.
politics, you know. We're assuming a whole lot actually. Um, so I tried to pursue a religious exemption and I perhaps did this in the wrong way. By wearing the keffiyeh again without having first secured the religious exemption.
Mm.
And yeah, they took me out of service because the company followed up to to like quote make sure I had taken the keffiyeh off. And at the same time, like this post that I made in the keffiyeh was going crazy viral because you know people online are crazy. And so I was getting like death threats and stuff. You know, was getting like people were saying they were going to fight me if they saw me on the street, which is really funny.
Jesus.
Because
Mm.
again, a year nobody ever said anything to me. But anyway, so that all kind of somebody in the company got really mad,
Right.
which I get it. You don't want stuff to blow. So I locked down my account. I was like, I don't need I don't need any more. You know, I tried to portray myself professionally, but I was like, I don't need this. And yeah, I got taken out of service again without like any discipline. Um, and you know, when you have a contract, like they have to follow the contract. And you know, just lucky, like somebody knew the contract well enough to know that this was a mistake on behalf of the company. And so they interviewed me. And here's the thing, like, I have a pretty good relationship with my local management team. And so I wanted to, they fooled me with the good cop stuff. I wanted to be whatever you call it, like compromising. I was like, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to blow up. My bad. And I used like undisciplined language because I've never been a shop steward. I know the contract okay, but I've never been served as a shop steward because I'm really a selfish person. And so I used language that didn't help me later in the panel, if you catch my drift. So one thing to take away perhaps is to remember, and this is something I know, but I just got, my diligence wasn't there. Management, they're a function of the operation, So it doesn't matter if you have a good relationship with them. Are they going to lose their job for you?
Right.
Probably not. Somebody's going to lose their job. You'd rather it not be you,
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. And, it is hard in the heat of the moment, right? You may know to be careful and strategic in your language, but in the heat of the moment, especially if it's something like this where you didn't really see it coming necessarily, at least not in this way, so it can be tough for workers put in that situation. But like you said earlier, it's really, really important having the backing of a union, so that folks can actually help you respect your rights and exercise your rights and protect yourself.
Yeah, so you went through all of this, and the union was able to go through the procedure laid out in the contract, show that management didn't follow the contract. You're able to get your job back. You're able to get back pay. You're reinstated. You're back on the job now, and so this is all really exciting, and so yeah, happy to happy to have you on to celebrate that. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about it. And so we'll just close with your podcast, Minion Death Cult, a podcast about your Genocidal Meemaws Facebook feed. Talk to us a little bit more about that. Where can folks find it, and what kind of stuff do y'all talk about week to week?
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, let's get to the most important part of my appearance, plugging my stuff. Yeah, no, thanks so much, guys, for having me on. Again, thank you to my family, thank you to the union, thank you to my customers, thank you to Minion Death Cult listeners who, yeah, without them, I would have been in much direr straits than I was. I co-host a podcast called Minion Death Cult with my buddy Tony Boswell. We're a comedy politics podcast that studies mostly American politics through the lens of real Americans, by which I mean the Facebook and other social media comment sections. We covered topical news and labor, electoral politics, policing, racial discrimination, vegan menu options, presidential assassinations, libertarian and anarcho-capitalist rap music, all the important stuff. But yeah, again, via the Washington Examiner op-ed page or the Epoch Times comment section. We've also watched an Epoch Times movie for the podcast called Interview with the Antichrist, which is phenomenal.
Okay.
Doing the real work there. Yeah.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. That's awesome.
We'd love to have you guys on. You guys should come on the show.
Yeah,
Happy to,
We'd love to. And I'm just really thinking about those comment sections from the Epoch Times.
I tell you what, though, if that, I do have to admit, I haven't listened to just a whole lot of your stuff. Like, I don't assume that you've listened to a whole lot of mine, and there's a lot of stuff out there, and so that's all okay. But if that's really like a big part of your podcast is like reading comments and stuff, it would be very funny to go through my Uncle Joey's Facebook feed on the Minion Death Cult
my God.
podcast.
Please. Yeah. So if you're looking up the show, Minion Death Cult, wherever you get podcasts, all the episode titles are comments from, is a comment from that episode.
Okay.
So that's why we look insane online.
Sure.
We did it kind of the hard way. We're just gonna put everything, the worst stuff out there, and let people think. Like the cover art is a selfie I found, years and years and years ago, of a guy with like the American flag filter, selfie from his laptop in his bedroom, 55-year-old guy, wearing iodized sunglasses, mustache, goatee. I don't know what his button-up shirt is, but he's got the American flag and the eagle filter over, and he's just got a giant cross that's like reflecting light. And I think for like the first 5 years, everybody thought that was me.
How long have you been doing the podcast?
We've been doing it for like 7 years now, I think.
Okay.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah, that is a minute. We've only been doing it for 4 years here at the Valley Labor Report.
Wow,
so
seniority, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
You have to give me your show now.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, that's right. That's how the union contracts work. Is the more senior people get to take over the others' podcasts. So, yeah, I'm trying to find a funny one just at the top of my Uncle Joey's feed. I'm not seeing.
Yeah, we could be onto something though. I
Yeah.
think some of the comments that we see down here in Alabama and
please.
even just on some of our channels, frankly,
here-
we probably could come up with some stuff.
Yeah, here's one of them where he's like, I mean, this is just like from May, right? And so we've all known for years that posting on Facebook does not actually serve as a legal notice, right? I mean, this is but we've got one of those like an attorney advised us to post this. The violation of privacy can be punished by law. Anyway, I hereby state I do not give my permission to use any of my personal data or photos. It's like, well, there you go. So you fixed the problem there, Uncle Joe.
Yeah, sovereign social media citizen. Very common on Facebook.
Yeah, that's probably like the third time he's posted that this year, to be honest. But anyway, I like
so
that
like
idea.
for example, anything that happens to you guys personally talking about labor, I'm sure you've gotten some funny responses to what you're doing. We'd love to talk about those as well. We talk about what happens to us in the real world, not the real world, still in line, but what happens to us personally. Like I'm going through the episode that we recorded about all the responses to my Kefia selfie. I'm vetting them. I'm handing them over to our lawyers and making sure there's nothing actionable in there that could get me fired again. And then I believe that episode will come out on our Patreon this Wednesday if I can get it up to snuff. But yeah, just incredible stuff. I'm sure being online long enough, you've had that stuff directed at you before.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some stuff. It would actually surprise you, especially if you knew that we were on a conservative radio station. We're on the same station that Sean Hannity started on, actually, here in Alabama. During the first half of the program, we're not on the radio right now. A recording of this half of the program will play on the radio later in the week, but we'll be able to clean up the curse words and stuff. But anyway, I'm actually surprised at how little hate that we get being on a conservative radio station. But I will say that anytime we talk about, I guess as you know, anytime we talk about like Israel, immigrants, or gay people in a not conservative way, we get like a dozen people calling the station telling them to get us off the air. Oh,
that's great. Yeah, that would be next week's theme. That would be embedded in next week's theme music if somebody left me a message like that. That's
unfortunately,
honestly,
they don't call us. They call the station, and so the station doesn't record it and send them to us. Unfortunately,
bummer.
Yeah, it is a bummer. We just get texts whenever I just get a text whenever it was apparently like a controversial episode, and the program manager, who's also a conservative but is more like a contrarian and just likes controversy more than anything, he'll text me and say, he'll say, "Hey, everybody hated your show this weekend. Keep it up."
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
We had the Rolling Stone journalist Miles Klee, friend of the show. We've had him maybe twice. I don't remember. Sorry, my memory's awful. But he's written critically of things like the movie The Sound of Freedom, and so he just gets his inbox is just a death threat receptacle now at this point. And so we had him on the show to go through some of the funnier responses that I saw to him. I was like, sorry, we have to reenact all the awful things that are being said to you, but I think they're funny.
Yes, I agree. All right, well, Alexander, appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, folks. Check out Minion Death Cult podcast, and maybe you'll see us on an episode in the future. We'll see.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
All right,
Appreciate it. Take care.
yeah, talk soon. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.